やあ、リヴァイ。大きくなったか?
First impressions matter first time, and this is doubly true for anime villains. In fact, I'd go out and say one thing that separates mediocre and just good villains from the truly memorable ones happens to be the way they debut. From their first appearance, they must strike fear into the hearts of feeble mortals, or at least do something super cool that fans will remember them for. Thus, I'll be sharing what I feel are the best moments of villains making an excellent first impression. Join me as we go through some of the most memorable debuts in action anime. After seasons of mostly fighting titans, it's about time for a change of pace. And what we've got is someone who doesn't nearly have as much of an imposing presence as the Shifters, but is just as or even more dangerous in the serial killer Kenny Ackerman. I've covered this moment before as one of my favourites simply because of the scene's masterful use of atmosphere. The whole time, you, the audience, are at the edge of your seats due to the ominous ambiance. The supposed calm does carry an air of impending doom, and Levi's own monologues reflect what a lot of us thought in that moment. Something's wrong, and we know it's coming. It's just that we can't do anything about it. Then it happens. People drop like flies, and Levi's left to confront this new villain with unbridled fury. He may have been an expert in Titan combat, but what if the battle is against one of his own, and someone with far more malicious and murderous intent than the behemoths? It's an amazing way to put a cliffhanger on Attack on Titan Season 3's pilot episode. The magazine's good, but what the anime did made it even more amazing. Since we're on the topic of a series about people transforming into monstrosities, remember Gotou from Parasite? Watching Parasite, I didn't exactly know what the end game was at the start. Yeah, there's the whole protecting humans from alien invaders shtick, but there's gotta be a mastermind, right? You know, a big boss who, when defeated, will put an end to this madness. It's one of the mysteries that keeps my anticipation up for the plot of this excellent series. Then comes this big, squinty-eyed guy. Some guy claiming to just test his limitations while slaughtering the Yakuza like they're nothing. He moves with superhuman speed while using his bare hands to attack. What amazes me more, though, is how he easily shrugs off literal bullets and swords to show his power. The mask comes off after the massacre, and with the appearance that we've come to know, it's here that I finally knew. This is the guy. This is the one who's gonna have that epic showdown with Shinichi at some point. True final boss material, and let me just say that their eventual confrontation didn't disappoint. It had no shortage of drama and heart-pounding action. We move on from aliens to heroes with our next entry, Garou. One Punch Man's second season decided to go for a change of pace. Instead of a somewhat episodic approach that the first season pulled, the second season quickly sets the tone by introducing an overarching villain to be dealt with. In a series with powerhouse heroes and overpowered villains like Boros, the pressure is huge, and Garou rises to the challenge in his debut. Eventually taking on the role of a hero hunter is a daunting task that's not for the weak nor the faint of heart. So how does Garou show us that he's up to the task of becoming the strongest? By pulling a one-man army and defeating everyone in sight. It doesn't matter whether he's facing a group of heroes and villains at once, the strongest in the world must be able to assert supremacy, right? The bad news is that he's only getting started. His crusade against heroes is quite the compelling plot point to follow, but something like that is only as good as the debut. In that regard, he made a damn good first impression. Meruem is next on the list, as everyone would have expected. Meruem is the character who wastes no time in making an impact. That's taken quite literally, as he's the villain that we have the pleasure of seeing as early as birth. And what does he do? That's right, force his way out of the Queen Ant. Oh, and kill comrades as well. Shocking, but not completely unexpected from someone who's destined to be the king, something he quickly assumes with how he gives orders. It's a moment that's simple and concise in telling us a lot about the character. It quickly establishes his personality and ruthlessness, and it sets him up to be one of the biggest threats the heroes have seen so far in the story. That's what makes his eventual development even sweeter, looking at it from the perspective of story writing. Who knew that this ruthless tyrant would undergo the level of transformation he did when it's all said and done? Next up, we have Muzan. Muzan's debut for me is one of the more unorthodox ones. For one, there's no show of strength in a direct way. There's no big confrontation against Danjiro or someone significant. All we've got is him being outed while perfectly blending in with the crowd. He does make a demon out of a person, a testament to his power and the threat that he brings. There's no big battle like any of the previous entries, and just as suddenly as he appeared, he's gone. Quite a bizarre debut actually when put against someone like, say, Garou or Meruem. However, it's a decently strong moment, and after finishing the manga, I think it's great in a sense that in a matter of a few seconds, it easily establishes the foundation of Muzan's personality moving forward. The way he does his thing, the kind of villain he is, and how his end was, it all makes sense after looking at his debut in retrospect. It's certainly a moment you'll appreciate more looking back. Before continuing, how about taking some time to thank today's video sponsors? Because if you're more of a strategist than a fighter, perhaps this game will tickle your fancy. Introducing Samedi Mana, a game that I recently found and I just can't stop playing. Samedi Mana is the latest in the popular genre of tycoon games, and you take the role of a hotshot manager. Your goal? Help Baron Samedi build his army of undead for him to return to the underworld. In order to do so, you need to build farms, manage your resources, recruit the best managers, and improve your structures to restore the Samedi Mana to its former glory. Samedi Mana will test your wits and strategizing, letting you spend hours on end trying to find the most efficient way to manage your resources, be it through training undead or upgrading the proper structures. Other managers also give you a helping hand, and learning their abilities and the bonuses they provide can pay off big time in your quest. Make sure to watch out for special events in order to get even more perks and rewards. A fun game to pass the time, especially when you want to express your brain muscles a bit. Samedi Mana is something I'd like to recommend to everyone. If you're interested in giving this casual game a try, all you have to do is click the link in the description box. Hours of fun and challenges await. From Muzan's debut, we move back to a more action-packed one, and here we have what I think is one of the best anime movie openers, courtesy of Luo Lang. In an action movie that's heavy on the sword fights and battles, it's especially important to establish the end villain, the final obstacle that the hero will face in his journey, and with the limited time that a movie is compared to a series, Sword of the Stranger wastes no time in establishing Luo Lang's threat level. It's a moment like Gotou's. We've got one guy laying waste to an entire squad, but take note that Luo Lang doesn't have any alien powers backing him up. He's just that good. He's just that powerful to make mincemeat out of the entire battalion. This is the villain that our hero must face in the end, the ultimate challenge, and it will take everything to have the slightest hope against this monster. All for One makes its way to the list in a big way. All for One. For so long, we've heard of the name All for One, the ultimate villain who's the antithesis to All Might's status as the beacon of justice and hope. We've known a lot of things thanks to his reputation, but we never really saw him in action. That is, until we finally did. Almost no one knew who this person was, but the look on their faces says it all. That's the look of pure fear and awe as All for One stands over the wreckage, his mere presence slowly eradicating all hope from the hearts of all heroes in sight. It also helps that he defeated Best Jeanist with ease. This physical debut for me is all about the hype. After everything we've heard, we finally saw him in action, and he didn't disappoint one bit. It's going to take a miracle for the heroes to get out of this, and we did get it in the clash against All Might, giving us what I feel is one of the best final battles in anime. Well, it's not literally a final battle, but it's one that marks the changing of the guard. It felt like saying goodbye to the MHA I've come to know when that battle ended. Utsuro is up next. Utsuro, as a character, always carried an air of mystery before and after his debut. If I were to make a comparison from entries on the list, I consider his debut to be like Muzan's. Not in the not doing any fighting department, because he sure showed his power and beat everyone, but in the way that he looked like, for lack of a better term, an NPC. Even the protagonist didn't expect to face one of the most overpowered characters in all of anime when they took on some random masked dude. But here we are, talking about how Utsuro made a memorable debut, winning a 3-on-1 with ease. Talk about a twist, and given what we see from Utsuro as the series goes on, it's crazy to think that he's not nearly in full power when this happened. This is like some warm-up for the guy who will eventually dazzle us with his combination of skill and downright broken powers. As we start rounding off this list, I must talk about One Piece. Amongst the villains, Kaido is always going to be one of my favorites, and that has to do with his debut.
彼は今自殺をしたのだ。
Who among you One Piece fans could ever forget this sky drop that shook the earth? From the vantage point high above the sky, Kaido easily towers over the feeble weaklings as he quickly makes his presence felt in a huge way, both literally and figuratively. I think that what helped make this moment is the endless stream of hype as he's making that big drop. You get those claims reserved for only the strongest of the strong, a beast so powerful that all that's left was for him to search for a place to die. A character who's been hardened so much by the endless tribulations he had to overcome before. Add to that the claims of immortality, and we know we're dealing with something insane here. The stomp on everyone was just icing on the cake, a means to justify the hype.
世界最高の戦争始めようぜ。
For our last stop, we have Madara. Seriously, is there any villain debut in Battle Shonen that can compare to this? For so long we've heard about the exploits of Madara, how he's a character who left quite the legacy, someone who's a pillar of history and one of the strongest characters. But to see him revived and in action, and to see him solo desecrate an entire division without even breaking a sweat, this is the perfect endgame boss material for Naruto after all the craziness we've seen through over a decade of the anime. I'd argue that he doesn't need such a strong debut. The hype's already there. It's freaking Madara in the flesh, yet he continues his rampage, justifying the hype and continuing the momentum of his debut. His favourite moment of mine had him flex over the Gages in one haunting movement, and he also gave Guy his defining and most badass moment, so we've got to thank him for that too, right? Gargouya shouldn't have come into the picture, honestly, but of course Gishi had to find a way to write him out because he made Madara too powerful. Pretty funny meta commentary when you think about it. And that wraps up the list. Did you find the villains that you're looking for? Do you know that you can connect with the ViniiTube community through social media? If you didn't, now you do. That's why I'll be leaving a link in the description box for the channel's Discord channel. You can also check out our other social media outlets. Drop by for news on our Instagram page, and if you're feeling kind enough to donate, then do check out our Patreon too. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you had a good time, and I wish to see you again.